Welcome to another show on the Heartland Cycling Network. Today we're going to be talking about gravel riding. And my guest today is Chuck Cooper, who I happen to have known through the Bellevue Bicycle Club, as well as the Crane Trust, which is something that you were part of for a while. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in Nebraska, small town northeast Nebraska, Hardington. Moved to Omaha after I graduated from Wayne State College. Been kind of in nonprofit management for the last 30 years, most recently with the Crane Trust, which is a conservation organization out near Grand Island, about 10,000 acres of land, and that's where the cranes come.
Okay.
So it's, I didn't get into cycling until I turned 60.
Oh, okay. So it's, do I call it relatively recent?
Relatively
maybe a year
new.
or two
I was
ago.
a runner. I was a runner.
You're a runner, okay.
And I ran 65 marathons.
Oh.
But then I just started getting hurt when I got in my 50s, and I went out and bought me a hybrid.
Okay.
And, when I was 60, I just turned 70, so I've only been riding 10 years, and I graduated through all the different bikes.
Okay, so you started out with a hybrid. Was it like a comfort hybrid or
it was a Trek. It was a Trek. Had a little shock in the front.
Okay, so that was a comfort. Yeah, it was probably a comfort hybrid. It had a bigger seat.
Yeah.
Lousy gear. You know, I was there about 20 years ago myself.
And then as I rode farther and further and got out of town, I noticed that I was the only one on a hybrid out there. They were all riding road bikes, and I came home and told my wife, I said, I got the wrong bike. And so that was about 2 years. So I rode that hybrid for a couple of years.
Now, I rode it a good 15 years.
Wow.
Before I went to a ride with a group. I showed up, and from what I had heard, it was a 40-mile ride, average speed 12 to 15 miles an hour. I can do that. I've done 40-mile rides on this bike. I show up, and they all have road bikes, and I thought, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. I felt that way a few times. So.
Yeah. So I didn't do too bad. Going the first 23 miles, which was going north.
Yeah.
Because we had a south tailwind.
Oh.
So going south, that was an entirely different.
It wasn't very strategic of the group.
No, it was one of those things where all of a sudden, when you're sitting on a hybrid or comfort hybrid, you're sitting upright. So you're catching the wind, that's number one. And number two, they're usually a heavier bike. It's not that they're bad, it's just that they have different purposes, different reasons to have them. And usually the gearing isn't optimal for riding on roads or as a group. So.
Well, it's just not going to roll like a road bike.
Yeah. So you said you graduated to different kinds of bikes.
Right.
Okay, so you got a road bike. And then after that, what happened?
I got more road bikes.
More road bikes. Okay, that's called N+1.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It is. I was the perfect, and kind of worked my way up through the little more sophisticated and expensive bikes, and so it was kind of a logical progression for me, to move to gravel.
Okay, well, you have to explain that. I mean, why did you move to gravel?
Well, first of all, I'm comfortable. I grew up in a small town.
Okay.
So I grew up driving and hunting, and gravel wasn't a scary thing to me. And what I found out, right at first, I just took my road bike out there. Because there's a lot of people who will tell you any bike's a gravel bike. Yeah. Some bikes are better.
Okay.
At gravel, but you could ride. You could take your bike, any bike you got, a hybrid or anything, and go out and ride gravel. And what I found, first of all, I'm not really worried about miles per hour. I'll ride faster and I'll ride hard and things like that, but that's not my goal. And particularly when it comes to gravel, it's more exploring. It's more going places I've never been. And I come up to an intersection. I very rarely, even if I'm on the trails, I very rarely ever have a planned route in mind.
I was going to say, do you plan your routes?
No, I don't.
Do you get lost then?
I have
I
have.
Okay.
I have to take my phone out and look on Google and find out where I'm at and
hopefully
exactly.
You have signal.
Yeah, and there's places you can go, but. Generally I know the roads out there. I primarily ride southwest out toward Schramm and Ashland, and so you can get a combination of hills and things. But probably the thing that that most of my friends don't believe, because I don't have a lot of friends that ride gravel. Most of us that are aging, you know, are kind of locked into the trail or, you know, one of those. But it's actually, as far as traffic, it's actually safer.
Okay, that's a point. Traffic.
Yeah.
You say that's one of the attractions of.
I rode yesterday. I almost went 40 miles on gravel, and I saw 4 cars. And those cars are moving more slowly than they are on the highways, and it's much less likely that somebody is trying to text while they're driving a gravel road. You know, where if they're out on a city street, I mean, you see the car wrecks where they're looking down at their phone. And because it is generally dusty, I can see those cars coming from a mile away.
Okay.
And really, generally, they're farmers. Occasionally there'll be somebody cutting through a gravel road, but they're farmers. And I would say 90% of the farmers wave to me. So I mean, it's pretty and it's quiet and I love old barns and old farms, and you know, I sent you some
Okay,
pictures.
so there's some of the other attractions to the gravel ride.
Well, yeah, because it's really not, for me, it's really not, you know, trying to set some record. Now, I did Gravel Worlds a couple years ago.
Okay.
The small one, which is 75 miles,
Yeah.
if 75 is small.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, my rides are generally between 30 and 40 miles, and I would say 90% of them I ride by myself. I have one guy that occasionally will come out on gravel with me. But I get to see things and buildings, and I'm more interested in seeing what's around me than zooming down a road and going, oh, I got that segment, or you know, I hit, you know, averaged 18 miles an hour for the last mile and a half or something.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that people probably have to understand. I mean, if cars are driving slower, bikes are probably going slower too.
Yeah, 12 to 14 miles an hour is I mean, you're getting a good workout, because, you know, particularly Southwest, because you got all the hills.
Yeah.
You're getting a good workout, and that's one of the things where it's kind of, for me, it's more difficult riding with a group. I've been invited to go on some group rides. Some of these guys and ladies, they go downhill so fast.
Mm-hmm.
I have this aversion to falling, and
Oh yeah.
and I mean, it's not unusual for people to go down a gravel hill at 40 miles an hour.
No, thank you.
No, I'm not, and I don't do that either. Now I can pretty much stay with everybody on the climbs, but I'm coming down, you know, with my hands on the brakes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not, you know, but generally speaking, I've never fallen. I've had wrecks on bikes. I have never had a wreck on gravel.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, you're not around as many people. There isn't all the traffic that you're worried about,
Yeah.
and it's just beautiful out there.
So, explain to us what would you consider a true gravel bike? What is your gravel bike?
I have a Trek Checkpoint.
Okay.
It's a nice bike, but basically, I would say you need a little wider tire.
Okay.
If you have some built-in shock, I mean, I'm not talking about a mountain bike, although you could ride a mountain bike very easily.
Yeah.
On gravel. If it has something that kind of picks up some of the rumblings, the washboards.
Okay.
Generally, you want a tire bigger than a 32 centimeter.
Okay.
Which is about that wide.
Yeah.
I
32
run
millimeter,
38s.
Yeah.
I've run as high as 42s. I've had friends that have run 47, 48, up almost as wide as a and that's going to give you a little more cushion. It gives you a little safety when you if you get into deeper gravel, which there are, Southwest at least, that's where I always end up going. There really isn't a lot of real deep gravel. In the spring and the fall, when the county comes out and puts some new rock down,
Right.
you'll get for a week or two. And then once it gets driven,
Yeah.
it pretty much breaks it down. And so it's not an issue. I mean, if your goal is to go out and ride hard, you're going to get a really good workout. But you'll get a good workout taking your time. And it's just a wonderful experience.
I've had this experience on a ride, but it was on pavement. But
Right.
it wasn't that Southwest area you talked about,
Right.
Shram and that sort of thing, Highway 31, that sort of thing, where a dog came out and chased me. So has that ever happened to you, and what have you done?
It's happened to me a few times. I've never had one really tried to eat me, you know, and they're, you know, and probably there was, you know, with some regular, you know, if you're out there riding around, if there's one house out by Richfield, and they've got 2 dogs, and they're always out, and they're not chained up, and there isn't a fence. And I've just changed my route. I just don't, that 1 mile section, I go right by it and go around and come back, because I'm just not going to deal with the dogs. But generally speaking, you know, the cars is that most of the, 3 times maybe in the 4 years I've been on gravel, I've had dogs. I mean, I have more trouble with loose dogs at Zrinski than I have out on gravel. But I do have bear spray. I've never used it.
Okay, so you do carry some pepper spray.
Yeah,
okay.
You know, I carry some of that. I've never had to use it. You know, and I probably would, you know, I mean, generally, the biggest concern about dog chasing is if they get in front of you, and they can knock you down.
Right.
And, you know, I mean,
Because they're going to be nipping at the tires a lot of times.
Yeah.
Or they seem to do that. And maybe your leg, you know, kind of thing.
And most of the time, and I've driven, by this point, I've rode just about every road, gravel road down, and that's the only dog. A lot of them, there's 2 or 3 places that have electric dog fences. And so you see the dogs come out.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I just went by, and they have 2 big dogs. And you see the dogs come out, but they come back right up to the edge of the yard and bark at you, but they never come out in the road. So, and I know where those are too. So it's
well, that's a safety, you know, thing, and you have that one thing. And you sound like you do a lot of solo rides, most of them.
I mean,
I do too. I ride solo most of the time, but I do some group rides. But do you have any other safety things that you employ when you're riding solo?
Well, yeah. Make sure, you know, I always have my phone with me, and I got an iPhone, so my wife can find my phone.
Okay.
You know, if she's got to find me. But Garmin's got things, and there's
like
a whole,
beacons and that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, and so, you know, and she'll occasionally check on me, and you know, and I'm fairly safe. I mean, if this looks like a bad thing, I mean, I had a situation. I love taking pictures of old barns.
Oh, I know.
Abandoned farms.
I've seen a lot of that.
Well, there's one in there that's got an old truck in front of it, and I pulled in there, and I just got in there and reached my phone, take some pictures, and this old beat-up pickup came in there with a guy with coveralls, and I felt like I was transported back someplace.
Yeah.
And he wasn't. It was his farm, evidently, and he wasn't happy that I was there.
Oh, really?
And so, you know, I said I was going to take pictures, and he wasn't happy, so I just said, I'm leaving, you know, and, you know, I mean, that's probably something I'm adding to my list of things not to do, is actually ride your bike into the homestead, and, you know, because obviously he must have lived across the road, and he saw me go in there, and, you know, I'm sure that they've got people that are taking things and damaging stuff. So I mean, that'd be one of my safety things. And obviously, you know, helmets and gloves, but I would say I am much safer. You know, we used to ride, you know, up to Fremont all the time and out to Arlington and all that. I am much safer on gravel than on those roads. Yeah. No question. Yeah. There's nobody coming up behind me at 70 miles an hour.
So have you said you ride solo, but do you have ridden in any groups or found any group rides?
I got one guy I ride with probably 2 or 3. Generally we'll get a ride in on the weekends together. And, you know, but that's really tough, just like I said, is up and down the hills and things. But, you know, then the biggest one I was in was Gravel Worlds down in Lincoln. That was probably was 1,200 people in there. And some of them were going 300 miles. Yeah. So it's a weird. I mean, they started before us. Yeah. But you know, I mean, they're very friendly. And I tell you what, you're gonna see all sorts of people out there. They're gonna, you know, a lot of the riders are in plaid shirts, baggy shorts.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, big hairy guys.
Okay.
And it's a whole different group. These aren't your typical roadies that you're going to find out at a road ride. I mean, those guys are there too, and then I mean it's pretty amazing watching. I think the 150 mile down there, and they had something like 8,000, 9,000 feet of climbing in the 150 miler, and a guy averaged over 20 miles an hour.
Wow.
So those people are out there too. I'm just not doing that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that anyway. But that's really fast on gravel.
Yeah, yeah. I have ridden a couple of times on gravel. Okay, I did go out and buy a gravel bike, but I had 35 millimeter wide tires,
Right.
and I just didn't feel comfortable with
Right.
that. And this summer I actually upgraded to 40.
Right.
That is a whole different world
Yep.
again.
Yep.
Okay, and lower pressures, different things that you do to ride on that. And I went out with a bike shop that actually did a gravel ride.
Right.
And there were about a dozen of us on the ride, and there was like, let's say, 4 or 5 that were like way out ahead.
Yep.
And then a couple of us in the middle. I was in the middle, and then there were some that were further back behind us. But of course, we all met up. They got to the top of a hill, and they waited for everybody to get together and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it was a good experience. But they were rolling hills. We were out in the western part of the.
Yeah, there's no 100 pounds of pressure in those tires anymore.
No. But I was surprised.
Your 40s, you could take down. I mean, I've had my tires under 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Down around 26, 27 pounds, and it feels weird.
Yeah.
But it really helps.
I mean, it helps you with stability, but it also gives you, it's more effort to pedal.
It is more effort.
I mean, because you have more rolling resistance, as it's called.
Right.
Well, you have a bigger footprint on the surface.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's the whole point. That's the whole point of it. Now, I know that I have ridden my gravel bike like on the Mopac trail, and you can ride those on to different trails like the Wabash or the Mopac. There's rail trails that are out there, and of course those are relatively flat. You're not going to get a lot of hills or elevation gain on that. But I felt the a couple of years ago that I did that, the gravel was so loose on one section, east-west, that I did not feel comfortable. I actually switched and went onto the road.
Right.
Now, I took my fat tire bike on the Mopac and did that the full 20-some miles there and back out of Springfield, and that was no problem.
Right.
But then again, I'm doing with a fat tire bike. Now, fat tire bikes don't go fast.
No, you're not going to go fast.
No. I mean, there are people that can go fast. I don't go fast on it.
Yeah.
I mean, I average maybe 10, 11 miles an hour.
That's
on
actually
that.
pretty quick for any length of time on a fat bike.
So.
But going back to the gravel thing for a second, is the counties around here really only put new rock down in the spring and the fall. Mm-hmm. So right now the roads are pretty nice.
Yeah.
Because there's not
a lot of
deep.
it's pushed
Yeah,
off.
it's all pushed off to the side.
Hard pack, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, this is almost it's almost as firm as this studio floor. But in the fall, before all the semis get out there to pick up the corn and the beans, which is not a good time to be out.
Yeah.
On
Okay.
gravel.
All right.
Fall is particularly
Safety
right
tip.
during the harvest. I mean, I'm still out there, but when I see a semi coming up behind me, I stop. I just pull off on the edge, and then they aren't going real fast, but they throw up a lot of dust. But so generally speaking, this time of year it's great on gravel, and then you get through planting season and get through that new gravel they're going to put down after winter, and then you're not going to run into real deep gravel around here at least. Mm-hmm.
So have you even explored joining any kind of groups for gravel riders? Are you familiar with any?
Yeah, well, I know. I know the bike. I went on Bike Racks. They had one here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Generally, there's two issues. First of all, you got that group that's going to go, and instinctively you want to go with them.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we start heading downhill, then I go, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be up here.
Yeah.
And then generally they're a lot shorter. The rides are, because they're trying to get new people to come out,
Right.
and there's a mix, and so you know, when I'm heading out, I pretty much would like to ride 40 miles, and a lot of those are going to be the 15 to 20 mile rides.
Yeah,
and,
right.
And generally, if I do that, like when I went out, there'll be somebody that wants to ride the course again, you know, and I didn't do it that time because I got lured away by beer.
Okay.
There was the other group was going to go for beer, and this group was going to ride again.
Well, that we call that electrolyte replacement.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Now, I follow a number of groups that are on Facebook and
Right.
some of the other social media channels, and one is Nebraska Gravel Grinder.
Right.
So, I mean, I follow them, have not really gone out with them yet, but that's something that I would like to do
Yeah,
eventually.
you know, and I probably should do more of that. It's the thing is that I'm just so anti-schedule.
Yeah, well, that's one of the freedoms
No, I
that
can
you
just,
have
I
in
can
your
just,
time.
I could go and I can say, well, I'm going to go tell my wife I'm going to ride at 9, and if I don't get out till 10, or if I go at 8:30, it's, you know, it's
Well,
not a
the
problem.
one thing that I tend to like about if you find a group, and occasionally you go with them, you explore different roads or
Yeah.
different areas that you've never done before, so I mean that's always good. It sort of expands your horizons.
Yeah,
a
I'd
little
like to, you know, if I'm going to find a group, I'd like to do more riding north, you know, up toward Fort Calhoun and some of those roads, and I haven't gone up there just simply because I don't know the roads very well. I've ridden the highways you know,
Yeah.
a lot of times
Yeah.
going up there, but I've never done a lot of the gravel rides up there, and that's just it. There aren't as many organized rides for gravel.
Yeah.
And many times the people that are organizing are adding them on to their road ride, trying to get a few more people to come out, and they
Yeah.
don't know how to set up a gravel course.
Yeah.
And you know, and there was one that happened a couple of years ago, and nobody rode the course evidently because they got out there and there was a gate. It was
Oh,
locked.
okay.
And people are having to lift their bikes
Yeah,
over the.
well, and I know with the Bellevue Bike Club, I did an intro to gravel ride last year. I didn't do it this year, but I did that last year. But I asked somebody that I knew that did a lot of gravel riding, and I says, "Can you suggest something?" And he said, "Yeah, here's a simple course. Yeah, it was some pavement,
Right.
but it was gravel. It was nice." It would go up the Platteview Road, which we turned around and went back because Platteview Road in this particular area was not a safe road to ride.
No.
You'd walk it along the side, and then there's still no shoulder. I mean, it's really
Yeah, you're talking about the highway, the
Yeah.
paved road, right?
yeah, the paved road.
I won't ride flat.
Yeah. So what suggestions might you have for someone that's interested in getting into gravel?
Well, I think what you can do is you go out to Stram Aquarium. You know, there's Fishery Road, which has got the family shrine on it and stuff.
Okay.
And you know, the first 5 miles there is fairly flat. It's kind of rough right now, but there isn't a lot of traffic. And you can leave from Stram and go that way, or you can go down and go across the lead bridge and go
Okay.
over. And there's
Yeah.
gravel right on the other side of the lead bridge. And you know, and just explore a little bit. And if you're, you know, all you have to do is go out on Strava and find somebody like me or some of the other people that are out there riding, and you can find our courses.
Yeah, right.
And you can just save the map.
Yep.
And just go ride it. But, I mean, I would go someplace. Stram would be. I never thought about it before, but Stram would be a good place because you can get the Fishery Road within 200 yards of leaving the parking lot, and then you have to go down about a mile to get down to the lead bridge and get across to the other side. But
Yeah.
but that's what I do, and just and make it a game. Just explore a little bit. Don't worry about how fast you're going, and right at first, maybe not even worry about your bike. You said you had that hybrid. That hybrid would work perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not trying to go 40 or 50 miles.
No.
You're just trying to go out 7 or 8 miles. I've been
Well, and it's enjoying the journey and
Right.
not so much, like you say, to make it a race or a competition. or
and
anything.
some of the things you find, because I'm trying to get my daughter into it.
Okay.
She's got a couple kids, and she's working on getting back in shape. And so I told her in the spring that she's got a hybrid. And I said, I'm going to take you out, and that's where we're going to go. We're going to go to Stram, and we're going across the lead bridge. And not far from there, this is the things you just run into is a family graveyard. It's got a wall on it, it's got a gate, it's very well taken care of, but there's people in there from the 1860s all the way up, and somebody's taking care of it. I mean, and I paid all due respects, you know, but I mean, all of a sudden, just riding down the road, and I'm going, here it is, and I never would have found it. And,
and just
you know, like I said, the old barns, and the old houses, and you know, I mean, and you kind of ride by some of these giant old farmhouses that have been abandoned for 20 or more years, and you just kind of wonder what their history was. What happened here? You know, when, you know, this house was built 100 years ago, and there's been probably multiple families have gone through it, and now I'm riding a bike by it. It's just ironic. It's just you know, those are the type of things that kind of interest me while I'm on the bike.
Yeah. Well, it's something that a lot of people can maybe find interesting over time as well. So what we want to do is thank Chuck for coming today and talk to us about gravel. And I also want to remind everyone to pedal on.